Alright, hola all, welcome back to Soul Mechanics. Sweetie Cheeks is taking off tomorrow morning to go to a super geeky geek fest.
Bye!
For a while, on vacation, and we wanted to finish up the video that we were doing. Now, we're not going to speak directly to the video because we don't have the pad or anything, but we are going to speak to some important issues that are totally applicable to it and try to cover that so that we can get to kicking ass on a higher level in our next video after that. So, as you were saying,
mid-conversation.
yeah, what we're talking about is we're talking about the concept, the ideology concerning whether being transgender, being gay, or being whatever you decide to be is or is not a choice that you make, and the whole fascination with the consideration of one's feelings that seem to happen.
Yeah, feelings seem to be a very big part of this discussion, and as I said about a minute before you turned on the camera, is that this is not a discussion about whether it is or is not something that you choose or are born with. It's both of those things.
Yes.
It's something that you can choose if you want, and also there are certain people that just have this innately. Right. It's both.
You're going to wake up with feelings.
Things. Yes, absolutely.
You're going to wake up with feelings. When you become self-aware, you're going to realize what feelings you have. And no, you are not always self-aware. And once you become self-aware, I'd say personally, that's when you become a person. Before that, how
you're placing too much importance on
awareness?
Yes. You know you know the game, dude.
That's what I
remember and forget. That's why it's called remember. You're the one that taught me that. It's a constant up and down.
You can get the memories back. You can go back. So
everything comes in waves.
But essentially,
and that includes our awareness and feelings.
Going back and recovering memories that you don't have from the past.
That's not what I mean.
That's time travel.
Okay, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. But that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about retrieving, forgotten ideals or anything. I'm just talking about remembering, like you said, awareness. That's exactly what it is. And this game is all about remembering to be aware and then forgetting and remembering and forgetting. And so the parts where you're not aware are just important and significant in one's life.
Ooh, that could be what Ariel meant because we were getting on that whole thing where Ariel said that death waits around every corner for a spotter. And
yes, it's a constant
it could be where you forget to be
who
you are and you become something else.
You're the one that taught me that, dude. Where are you?
Right.
Now retrieve. Retrieve.
I forgot that, but apparently I taught it to her. Now,
retrieve that memory, dummy.
But see, you're gonna wake up with certain feelings, and you might wake up the next day with different feelings. That can happen. But whatever your feelings are,
and evolve all the time.
You might decide to act on those feelings, and say you're a man who feels like a woman. You might decide to transition if the option is available. But you might decide not to.
Right.
You might become, for example, like me, who woke up with feelings like that, but didn't think it was an option, and decided to become the man that I am instead. And that's who I am.
Valid.
That's what I am. That's what I present myself as being, and that was, yes, a choice.
I think it's both. I think the argument over whether it's a choice or something that you're born with is dumb. It's a dumb waste of time to argue about it because it's both.
Right.
It's both of those things, and it's different for everyone, and that's something that really bothers me.
In fact, whether it is or is not a choice is optional.
No, I mean, that's not what I mean. I just mean everyone is different, and so to blanket statement something, everyone in this certain culture is either this or that, or this happened to them, or it's that. You can't blanket statement whole groups of people.
And that's like your
That's
theme.
A fucking dangerous game to play. You can't start doing that even with little things.
Yeah, and that seems to be Sweetie Cheeks' theme in all of these videos is anti-blanketing. And I should note, for anyone who doesn't know, Sweetie Cheeks is a red, and she is of our trine. The three of us that founded the initiative, she is our red. Which, anybody who doesn't know that, reds are empathic people. Reds are emotional-based, feeling people, and that's what we're speaking to here.
Absolutely.
And what were you saying about feelings?
Evolve.
Right before it.
Feelings evolve and change, and you might. It doesn't mean that that the person you are is different based on the feelings that you have.
Oh.
And there's a lot of importance placed on feeling in this type of culture and in this conversation, particularly regarding the LGBT community and their culture. And so I think it's important to look at the feelings and to be aware of them. But I think it's also important to remember that feelings change and your emotions change and your evolution of emotions changes. That doesn't mean that you're any less of a person or less valid of an identity just because you maybe have different feelings than you did 3 years ago, or et cetera, et cetera. I think it's ridiculous to say it's all about feelings and that's the only thing that matters, and that's for the rest of your life. Right. That's what you are. If you have this one feeling, a 4-year-old kid, I don't see how a 4-year-old child
is going to decide that they're going to be a different sex than they are.
That blows my mind, and I don't know the particulars. This was about that couple in Berkeley, California that was recently in the news. I don't know the particulars of this news story. I just kind of heard it while I was listening to a podcast. And maybe they're just going with the flow. That's fine, but if for instance, you give a 4-year-old child hormone therapy, that's really dangerous.
A lot of people are against that. A lot of people are there's a huge debate as to whether it's humane or ethical to utilize hormone treatments with children.
Hormones.
I mean, honestly,
they can be really dangerous. Hormones can fuck you up.
Exactly. I'm going to say that. I mean, there's psych tests that need to be done when somebody transitions to decide whether or not they can be. And
how do you do that on a 4-year-old? Well, exactly. I guess the 4-year-old wouldn't be getting any kind of surgeries or anything.
No, but who knows what's coming in the future if we continue down this route now. I think that hormone therapy, I'm not against children doing it. I think that if they're
dead set on what clothes you wear, that's not what I'm referring to.
I'm saying the hormone treatment. I'm not against using the hormone treatment on children, but at the same time, I'm going to say I smoked cigarettes when I was 13, but I wasn't allowed to buy them. You know what I mean? So children, maybe they can dress as a girl and act like a girl, but maybe we shouldn't be allowed to give them hormone treatments until they're a certain age.
Hormones can mess you up, man. People get hormone therapy. It causes cancers, all kinds of weird stuff. It can really mess up your body.
Exactly. Here is how this is applicable to the first video, which is technically going to be an extension of the response video to 434's interdimensional warning to all humans.
I remember, yeah.
So...
Oh no, he's
light vaginas, warning to all worlds. Sorry, 434, if you see this, I'm not making fun of you, just a little.
Yes,
but
he is.
How this is applicable, I think, is that, as I was saying earlier, with speaking with Sweetie Cheeks, I think that this fascination with our feelings and this trend to focus on our feelings is a subliminal, subconscious attempt at focusing on the soul. Feeling is the language of the soul, and I think that we're desperately trying to reconnect with the spirit, with the detached metaphysics.
What that guy in his video was talking about,
exactly.
Reintegrating spirituality in our culture.
What the fuck?
Just don't even do it. Reintegrating a spirituality and connection with our soul into everyday life and culture, I think, is a very important thing, and I think that if we can figure out a way to do that where it includes everybody for different
what we're
opinions and ideologies, I think that's great, that's fine.
Exactly.
But you can't label a person based on a feeling for the rest of their life.
Right. Yeah, you can't.
That's tricky.
Business. It seems to me, in this sense, along these lines, that even younger children before a certain age should not be allowed to make critical decisions about their life.
No, you can't get a tattoo.
And that seems contradictory, and that really seems shitty of me to say that.
I don't think so. I think that those things are in place for a reason, and it might have been so long ago that those reasons are different now. Whatever. But you're still not fully developed mentally until you're like 26 years old. And to say to a 4-year-old kid, yes, go ahead and make this dangerous decision for the rest of your life.
Here's the problem
and
with
here's
that,
some hormones. That's weird, man. You can't do that.
When you're fully developed, then you're locked. You're not hardwired. Nobody is hardwired. That doesn't happen. Nobody's locked, fixed in place permanently. But for the most part, your brain is fully developed. Insofar as regards, average, ordinary. Personally, I think that, again, as I've stated before, that furthering your evolution by unlocking the Kundalini impulse and training with that might actually cause, more growth to occur, or at least changes in the wiring, because I've experienced so many changes since then. I've become so many different me's. So that's a theory I have.
But that happens to people no matter what their path. You're never going to be exactly the same as you were. And
again, with the Kundalini impulse, everybody is utilizing this to a certain degree. I taught my mom last night. My aunt came in bitching because she doesn't like me being there, and she threw a fit. And she stomped around and she slammed shit. She yelled at my mom in her own house.
Like a 10-year-old. That's crazy.
And I told my mom was like, said something passive about, well, he needs to, she made up an excuse as to why I was there. I was like, Mom, don't do that. You don't need to be defending yourself in your own home against somebody. If you want me to be here, which she asked me to stay there because she's afraid of me getting jumped again, so she asked me to stay there. And my aunt's like, if he can't go walking around in the dark at his age, you treat him like a child and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, she's afraid I'm going to get hurt, so she asked me to spend the night at her place. I don't need...
And newsflash, your mom is a very sweet person, and she did not just ask you to stay with her because she was afraid you were going to get jumped. That was just a small part of it. She just wants to see you and spend time with you.
Likes
like
having
any
me around.
Mom. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
She likes having me around. She wants me to be there.
My mom
and she's got the kittens to take care of. My mom's got a broken hip. She just got her hip replaced. She needs me to be there to help with things. She just wanted me to be there.
There's nothing wrong
But she had to make up an excuse. I'm like, Mom, don't do that.
Yeah.
You need to stand up for yourself, because she's been letting people walk all over her whole life. And so many times, both of our lives, when I was living with her, would get ruined because of this, because of the way that she let people walk all over her and use her. And I told her, you need to step
she wants
fuck
to help
up.
Anybody that she possibly can.
I told her, you need to step the fuck up and own your life. This is your house. You own it. Own it. Well, she doesn't own it, but own. She's a renter. Own this home. Own your life.
It's her.
And tell this woman, because I guess my aunt's under the impression that because she pays a small amount of the rent that she owns half of the house or something. No, you rent a room. You can go in that room and you can shut yourself off. Nobody's bothering you. Mind your own business. And so my mom, I kept nagging my mom about it. I kept pushing her. I was like, you need to step up and take care. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. And honestly, I hope something bad happens to me, because it'll wake you up.
Oh my God.
And eventually she blew up, and she told my aunt off in a big way and set her in her place.
You don't have to yell and scream at somebody to
because she lets it build up. She told me at one point during this conversation, she said, well, I'm just going to ignore her from now on. I was like, so you're going to run away.
Yeah,
you're going to run away from her. You're going to hide from this woman in your house.
It's
and
one
my mom
strategy.
Blew up,
it's not
and she
effective,
went. It's
but
not
it's
effective.
One strategy.
She blew up and she started yelling and screaming, and it's because all these things build up. All this energy builds up, and that's how the energy gets pent up in you. That's how stress occurs. But she released it, activated that impulse momentarily, and used it. And when she came back in the room, she was shaking and shit and freaking out.
Yeah,
she didn't know what to do. And I had to explain to her, that's because you just activated that impulse. You just manually activated your adrenaline glands.
But that happens a lot with any kind of confrontation.
Exactly, yeah.
Personal
it does.
confrontation.
And
which is why I think people use social media to have their confrontations.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
that they don't
Absolutely.
have to look someone in the face and say what they feel.
Right.
Because you're afraid. And
which is blocking off that impulse. That's being detached from the spirit.
Population of nations of the world, that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of people approaching a conflict head on, even if it's a small, stupid thing, they do it through this anonymous, way, so that you can keep yourself safe and keep yourself protected, and nobody knows that it's you that's mad about this thing or that thing or whatever. And that's where growth comes from. Yeah, it's detaching. That's where growth comes from. When you learn something about yourself, and then you have to express that thing to other people because there's a conflict there, that can only lead to growth of yourself.
And that's where we can say that
even if it ends badly, you're still going to grow in some way.
You're growing, you're evolving as a person.
Absolutely.
That's your spiritual evolution.
And so all
that's
that
your
growth
psychological evolution.
Is
and
now
this
cut
is
off.
where we can make a perfect example of how spirit is in fact not divided from matter. Psyche is not divided from matter. They're the same thing, because it's the concept, it's the feeling of it's the metaphysical feeling of uniting with the emotions. At the same time, it's the physiological aspect of activating that impulse as a part of it. And yes, in this way, seeing how Sweetie Cheeks just brilliantly illuminated, we are in fact detaching ourselves from our spiritual aspect, and we're denying ourselves that physiological growth.
Totally.
And so recommendations on this point would be not to stop doing that, because social media is awesome. It's a great tool, but maybe you should try
It's a tool, but not a crutch.
When you see a problem that you have the chance to take head on in person, go ahead and do that as a part of your training, as an exercise. See that not as a frightening difficulty, not as a threat, but as a fucking challenging opportunity.
Yeah. Everyone's threatened now all the time by everything, and to actually challenge oneself is like, that doesn't happen anymore. That's not a thing. People are so scared of everything.
You want to be challenging yourself.
Even opinions and thoughts now, we've gotten to this point where, like, the activists are actually against free speech, and if you say something that they don't agree with, then you're silenced, shut down, and censored.
I'm coining the activist complex term.
I don't like that, because the word activist, to me, I picture, people in the 60s standing up for what they believe in and protesting wars and
Exactly. Note that I'm speaking of extremists.
I think what you mean
activists.
is like the act. I don't know. I think being an activist is great. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, but they're being activists for no reason.
Activism.
It's fake activism. So maybe we could say false activist complex.
False activist. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still
virtue signaling.
I think it's fine if you want to be an activist.
Absolutely.
For whatever group, even if you're not a part of that group.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they're doing it.
That's fantastic.
They're doing it as an effort to reconnect with the physiological aspect of spirit. That could be why they're doing it.
Just going about it the wrong way, and it's causing all kinds of problems.
The way that we're handling it now, especially doing everything through social media, again, is furthering that detachment. We're separating ourselves from.
You know what I just thought of?
The reality.
I heard an interview with what's her name, Megan Phelps. She's the granddaughter of the guy that started the Westboro Baptist Church, the people that picket funerals and stuff, the God Hates Fags people.
Yeah.
She's the granddaughter of the guy that started this whole church, something Phelps. Anyway, she grew up in that environment. She was holding God Hates Fags picket signs when she was 5 years old. No, seriously, not knowing what it meant or anything. Grew up in that kind of environment, and then you know what changed her mind and got her on the path of rediscovering. She left the church long ago. You know what changed her mind? Twitter.
Nice.
She got on Twitter.
See, you can make a difference via social media.
Met 2 or 3 people that approached her with questions and compassion instead of threats and vitriol or whatever. And so she, instead of going, you know, fuck these people, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're going to hell. If you're compassionate towards someone, they're going to second guess and maybe consider the very reasonable question that you just asked them. And so she started thinking, like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. All these conflicts within the church and within the Bible and stuff, and that's what started her on her path of leaving the church. Her family disowned her. She hasn't seen them. It's crazy, and she is a sweetheart.
So here we go. Exercise number 2 in this video is, instead of, you can make a difference via social media, but instead of trying to make a difference so much, again, following that false activist complex, instead of trying to make a difference, try to find opportunities to allow people to make a difference in you. Open yourself. Allow yourself to be free-minded, for real, truly open-minded, not just saying you're open-minded because you believe some weird shit.
If you want to really make change, not just within yourself, but within the society, I think the best way to go about that is open dialogue. Open dialogue and the marketplace of ideas. And so, to me, if somebody says something that you don't agree with, and you just immediately shut down and disappear and cut them off and whatever, then that just, it's the Barbra Streisand effect. That just makes their idea grow bigger and get more attention. That the way to combat bad ideas is with good ideas.
Not with more bad
but
ideas.
To do that, you actually have to talk to somebody.
Right.
You can't just disappear and separate and tell that person to fuck off, and then they hate you, and I hope you die, and blah, blah, blah. It starts a whole...
Fighting hatred with hatred.
Exactly. It starts a whole domino effect of just bullshit separation that grows farther and farther and farther and farther apart.
Right. And I should like to note, where it comes to this Phelps girl, at 4 years old, she's, by default, somebody else is deciding for her, but she's allowing for that decision to be made on her behalf, and she is, in effect, by extension, deciding to be this gay-hating, you know, Christian conservative.
You don't decide shit when you're 4 or 5
I know,
years
exactly,
old,
but
you know?
that's what I'm saying.
It's decided
You're not.
for you.
People are going to be deciding for you.
Yeah.
And this 4-year-old child who decided, because she's presenting herself as that. She doesn't feel that way, but she's presenting herself by that, and she is thereby accepting the responsibility of being that in the open world, in the real world, expressing that. That is who she is, what she expresses herself as being.
And she wanted to change that, so she did, yeah.
And with this 4-year-old girl who decided to be a boy who decided to be a girl,
I think it was the other way around.
Really, well, girl who decided to be a boy, either way. You know, girls are like, you might be a tomboy, and then you feel that way for a minute, and you're like, hey, I'll take it all the way. But
it happens all the time.
I think maybe other people are probably significantly influencing that decision.
Absolutely. If it's a 4-year-old child, then absolutely
it's not really a
it's
decision.
being
I don't think we
influenced.
should allow children under a certain age to be able to go ahead and make these decisions, and parents should not be encouraging it. Stop babying your children.
Encouraging your child.
Encouraging your child in a manner, but not encouraging your child to be, you know, like babying the child. Like, I want to be, I want hormones to transfer, you know, transition into another sex. And as parents, your duty thereby would be to say, sorry, but you're too fucking young to do that. Let's wait a little while.
Start small and see how you feel after, you know, a while. That's just the responsible thing to do, I think, and it's very scary that people are so, and you know, part of it, I think, is that they're so scared that people are going to be sending them death threats and picketing outside their house that they have to go, okay, sure, 4-year-old, we can do whatever you want to do, because I don't want people on Twitter to fucking get me fired from my job because I said a 4-year-old shouldn't take hormone replacement therapy.
Thereby, as a community, we're desperately attempting to lock ourselves in this separated, isolated state.
That's authoritative. That's a very scary thing. That's somebody telling you that you can only think a certain way, and if you differ from that in any way, then you're going to face consequences, real world consequences of you getting fired and losing your job and having people, you know, protest at your house and follow you home and try to get pictures of you, and that's how it happens now. It's like, it's craziness, and that's authoritative.
What that is, all of this that's happening, you know, what might soon be anti-activist activists fighting against free speech, you know, anti-Antifa, all of this shit that's happening, and that seems to me, I think clearly, from a spotter's perspective, to be the system, the virus in the system fighting to survive, because we're trying to change it by focusing on our feelings, by having these choices open. We're trying to reconnect with spirit, and we're trying to embrace that physiological aspect of spirit and psyche, but we have this virus in the system that's fighting desperately to survive, and so we get this feedback as though we're going about it the wrong way. We need to stop and look at the reality of what's happening, understand what it is, and deal with it appropriately.
Be open to talking about it. There isn't any such thing as a conflict that's fun, that you want to do. That doesn't
challenge.
exist. That's not a thing.
That's going to be exercise, ultimately, overall exercise. Fucking challenge yourself. Take opportunities to be challenged.
If you want to do something and you think it's fun, that's not challenging. That's not a thing has to be things that are hard, that you don't want to do. That's the whole point of having been challenged by something. And the world isn't supposed to be safe. The world isn't supposed to be protecting you at all times. You do that for yourself.
Yeah.
I think we have this backwards, where it's like, absolutely there shouldn't be, you know, mass shootings and stuff. I don't mean that in a literal sense, but how do you expect to learn anything if everywhere you go you say, well, it's illegal for you to hurt my feelings now.
You can't.
Nobody can say anything that might hurt my feelings.
Sometimes going against the grain, even if, like, for example, your parents or whomever gives you guidance, a director gives you guidance, and you don't like it, you don't want to do it, sometimes doing it could be the challenging aspect.
Right.
And going against the grain and breaking the mold, especially where it comes to this authoritarian view on life that we have to be this certain way because it's a trend in society. Challenge it. Challenge the system. Challenge yourself. So I'm sorry, but we're way over the limit, and I'm going to cut it here.
In the immortal words of one Tom Morello, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fucking A. So, yeah, we're going to cut it here. That's going to have to be it for now, because I fucked up and I used too much space on the phone. I'm sorry, but we'll get back as soon as Sweetie Cheeks returns from Geeky Geek Fest, where she's going to dress like what do you dress like?
Just a medieval garb. Medieval
garb. She doesn't have any weapons, which is lame, and they don't allow actual fighting with the stick swords. I think it's choreographed, but I would like to go and fuck some people up with a sword. That would be excellent. I got to fight at the cafe, as I was saying before, with the sticks that had foam on them.
Yeah,
somebody brought those, and they were playing with each other.
Like
they gave me, I was like, they told me, you want to try? I was like, hell yeah. I was like, you better watch out though. And the people in the audience
got
there
rocked with the foam sword.
Yeah, these people were sitting there like jaw dropped, because I was fucking people up like nobody's business.
Yeah,
and I am good with a sword.
That practice together at like the park and stuff.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I would like to do that.
Connect with them.
Yeah, maybe I can. I'll look it up online.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we love you guys. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Here's what happened. We ran short a few minutes because, as it happens, this camera is a hell of a lot cooler than Liara Mark IV, and thereby it chews up more space. So that space limitation we run into was, equated to a somewhat smaller span of time. We ran short a few minutes, and it clipped us off. But pretty much what we said at the end there after that was, allow yourself to be challenged, challenge yourself, be open-minded, allow yourself to be changed. You want to reach that inner child. That inner child is the spiritual aspect of yourself. That's what it truly is. And be more childlike, be more open to things, be more exploratory. Don't have that Don't have that fucking stick to your guns, hold tight, I'm a mature adult mentality. That's the immature spin on things. That's what's immature about our people, is that, you know, wannabe adult mentality. Pretty much that's what it is. Wannabe adult, but not really. A truly adult mentality is having an open mind that's freed up and allows for change. So allow yourself to be challenged, allow your ideologies, your mentality to be challenged. Take every opportunity you get to embrace your challenges, to allow yourself to be altered. You know, You alright?
You see what that guy did?
Okay.
He ignored me.
What?
I went to this bus and he totally ignored me.
Yeah.
He's just a creeping piece of shit.
Sorry to hear that. Alright, well, I think I had a spot of trouble. I tried to help him out. Anyways, be fucking excellent, basically, is the bottom line. Step up to challenges. Don't run away. Don't tell people that they're shitty and that, you know, they're fucking stupid because they disagree with you. That's stupid. That's a really ridiculous way to go about things. Don't do that. Don't shut people out. Embrace the challenges that present themselves. Take every opportunity you can to challenge yourself and step into that. Present your physiological aspect. You are not divided from your spirit or your soul, your psyche. Psyche and matter are not truly divided. It's all just a matter of realization. You've been tricked into thinking and feeling this way. Act on your feelings. Step into the physiological aspect of your spirituality. Become realized. Live your life and live it gracefully and with excellence. Just be excellent. That's all we can say for now. When Sweetie Cheeks gets back, we'll jump back on the reality checks course and catch up with everything we need to. In the meantime, I shall use this beautiful phone to make whatever videos I can for you. Thank you for watching. Kila Salai, Kiriuni Siari, Namaste.